What you are about to hear could mark the beginning of one of the most dangerous escalations in the Persian Gulf in decades. Dear friends, welcome to another episode of our channel covering the global military landscape. In the early hours of Friday, March 13th, the United States struck what many analysts consider the single most vulnerable strategic target in Iran, Kharg Island, the hub through which nearly all Iranian oil exports flow. Just hours earlier, the Pentagon had confirmed the deployment of a Marine Expeditionary Unit toward the Persian Gulf aboard the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli. Two moves, one strategic message. But the crucial question now is this: was this strike simply a warning or the first step of a much larger operation? And when you connect the dots, the implications are far bigger than any official statement suggests. In this video, we will analyze the American strike on Kharg Island and the deployment of a Marine Expeditionary Force to the region. Together, these developments could represent the opening phase of a potential U.S. operation targeting one of Iran's most critical strategic positions. In the early hours of Friday, March 13th, the United States struck what many analysts consider the most sensitive target in the entire confrontation with Iran, Kharg Island. Only hours earlier, the Pentagon confirmed the deployment of a Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Persian Gulf aboard the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli. These two moves, when analyzed together, reveal far more than any official statement. Kharg Island lies about 25 kilometers off Iran's southwestern coast in the northern Persian Gulf, roughly 55 kilometers northwest of the port city of Bushehr. It is a small coral island measuring about 8 kilometers in length and 4 to 5 kilometers in width, an area roughly comparable to New York's Central Park. Yet this small island hosts the most critical piece of Iran's economic infrastructure. Approximately 95% of all Iranian oil exports pass through Kharg. The island contains loading terminals capable of handling up to 7 million barrels per day, along with storage capacity for roughly 30 million barrels. Currently, Iran exports between 1.5 and 2 million barrels of oil per day, primarily to China and India. And virtually all of that volume moves through Kharg Island. And Kharg sits dangerously close to another crucial strategic choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. Roughly 1/5 of all oil traded globally passes through this narrow corridor every single day. Any military escalation in this area has the potential to disrupt energy flows, affecting economies across Asia, Europe, and North America. The reason Iran concentrated almost all of its oil export infrastructure on this island is simple. Geography. The shallow waters of the Persian Gulf generally prevent large, deep-draft supertankers from approaching Iran's coastline. Kharg is one of the few locations with enough depth for massive tankers to dock and load oil directly. The island is connected through underwater pipelines, both to offshore Gulf platforms and to major oil fields in southwestern Iran. Without Kharg, Iran has virtually no viable alternative capable of exporting oil at this scale. During the Iran-Iraq War, Iraqi Air Force aircraft repeatedly bombed the island's terminals throughout the 1980s, eventually putting them out of operation in 1986. Iran was forced to divert exports to smaller facilities on the islands of Lavan and Syri, but their capacity was far lower, severely damaging Iran's economy. This is why analysts describe Kharg as a critical single-point vulnerability. If Kharg goes offline, Iran's oil export capacity collapses almost immediately. On Friday night, President Donald Trump announced that he had instructed United States Central Command to carry out one of the largest airstrike operations in the region in recent years. According to the Iranian news agency Fars, waves of explosions were heard across the island. Local sources indicated that the targets included air defense systems, a naval installation, and structures associated with the local airport. Iran confirmed that the oil export infrastructure itself was not directly damaged. And here lies the central strategic point. Trump emphasized that the decision not to strike oil facilities was deliberate, but he also sent a clear message. If Iran continues interfering with navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, that restraint could quickly disappear. In other words, Friday's strike served as a strategic warning, a demonstration that the United States has the capability to hit Kharg whenever it chooses. Tehran responded quickly. Iranian officials warned that if their oil infrastructure were attacked, they would destroy all petroleum facilities in the region linked to the United States. But hours before the Kharg strike, another major development had already emerged. The Pentagon authorized the deployment of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Middle East aboard the USS Tripoli. A MEU is the smallest, fully self-sufficient expeditionary formation of the United States Marine Corps. Typically composed of around 2,200 to 2,500 personnel, it integrates three combat elements into a single operational force: ground combat element, aviation combat element, logistics combat element. In the case of the 31st MEU aboard the USS Tripoli, the aviation component is particularly significant. The Tripoli is an America-class amphibious assault ship measuring roughly 257 meters in length, functioning in many ways like a light aircraft carrier. In 2022, the ship set a record by operating 16 F-35B fighter jets simultaneously. The 31st MEU Air Wing also includes AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, MV-22, Osprey, transport aircraft, CH-53, heavy lift helicopters. The amphibious group also includes USS New Orleans, USS Robert Smalls, USS Rafael Peralta. On Friday, commercial satellite imagery showed the USS Tripoli sailing south of Taiwan, passing through the Luzon Strait toward the Indian Ocean. That positioning places the force roughly 1 week away from the waters of the Persian Gulf. This is where the two developments begin to connect. The combination of airstrikes against military targets on Kharg and the deployment of an amphibious assault-capable force suggests that Washington may be seriously considering a limited operation to seize and occupy the island. According to multiple reports, the White House reviewed a potential ground operation to capture Kharg as one of the options presented to the Pentagon. A U.S. official confirmed that CENTCOM positioned the 31st MEU in order to expand military options against Iran. The strategic logic is straightforward. With Iran's navy significantly weakened, its air force limited, and its missile capabilities under growing pressure, Iran could face serious difficulty reinforcing or defending Kharg. If the United States were to occupy the island, it would immediately cut off the regime's primary revenue stream. Whoever controls Kharg controls the flow of Iranian oil, and therefore the economic survival of the regime itself. Some security analysts estimate that approximately 5,000 troops would be required to seize and hold the island. That number falls within the combined capabilities of a Marine Expeditionary Unit, supported by additional naval assets. However, such an operation would carry substantial risks. Even with overwhelming American air and naval superiority, Kharg lies only 25 kilometers from the Iranian mainland, well within range of missiles, drones, artillery, and fast attack craft. Iran has spent decades refining asymmetric warfare tactics specifically designed for exactly this type of scenario in the confined waters of the Persian Gulf. Moreover, capturing the island would fundamentally transform the nature of the conflict. Shifting from an air campaign into a sustained ground commitment requiring constant defense resupply operations, and naval protection thousands of kilometers from U.S. territory. In other words, what is currently presented as a strategic bombing campaign could rapidly evolve into a real territorial occupation conflict. In summary, the strike on Kharg appears to have been carefully calibrated. The United States destroyed military defenses on the island while deliberately avoiding the oil infrastructure, and at the same time deployed thousands of Marines with amphibious assault capability to the region. It is the strategic equivalent of placing a loaded weapon on the table during negotiations. If the objective is to pressure Iran into negotiations, Kharg represents the perfect leverage point. Without it, the regime loses its primary source of revenue, struggles to finance its proxy forces, and weakens the Revolutionary Guard. And if the decision is ultimately made to escalate toward a limited ground operation, the first move on the board may already have been made. If you found this analysis useful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown of major developments in the global military landscape.